I'm Mangino. Welcome to the Mangino Talks Pittsburgh podcast. We talk about everything that matters to us all, from current events to Pittsburgh history, social issues to sports, politics to practical day-to-day life. And today we're going to focus on what's happening in downtown Pittsburgh. Ever since COVID hit our shores in March of 2020, the downtown regions of cities all over the country have absolutely been devastated, and Pittsburgh is no exception. So we have this issue of, for a couple of years, no one practically was going downtown to work. And I mean almost no one. Just virtual ghost town in downtown Pittsburgh. And then eventually, businesses began to bring their people back. However, most of them are only back in a hybrid fashion, where they're in town for just a couple of days a week. And so that is not to bring back enough to bring back the vibrancy that is necessary in downtown Pittsburgh. It just isn't even close. The concern is that there's never going to be the office mindset of downtown ever again. That it's just never going to happen. That people will always, from this point forward, work some aspect of hybrid. There will be a greater interest in businesses, if they do open up, maybe more satellite locations than having one centralized location. And so the question becomes, what happens to downtown? And in a recent story in the Post-Gazette, there was an analysis that was done by Jones Lang LaSalle. It's a real estate firm. And they looked at their second quarter 2023 office report, and it was released last week. And a very interesting story in the Post-Gazette written about this in regards to the Golden Triangle and how to reimagine it. And the way that they primarily see this is fewer office buildings and then more residential and an aspect of livelier retail. And I can understand why. It makes all the sense in the world. If people aren't coming back to work in the offices, then what do you do in order to get people to come back downtown? One of the things that this doesn't address nearly enough is why people are not going to come back downtown and what is inhibiting them from doing so now. There is a line in the story that addresses this, but it's only one singular line. And that line is the issue of safety, open drug use, homelessness, and lewd behavior. And if the city is not going to address this issue, these issues, then it's not going to make a difference if you convert all of the buildings into residential. People are not going to go and live there if they don't feel safe, if they have to worry about open drug use and homelessness and lewd behavior. I know of a couple that sold their home on the north side in the Bellevue area and decided they wanted to live in downtown Pittsburgh. They wanted to be a part of that vibrant nightlife right there along the cultural district, right? Actually, the first place they went to was actually on Liberty Avenue. To them, it was close enough to the cultural district. They liked the place. It worked out for them really well. And this is going back into the late teens. But they wanted to be immersed in all of this. And they've lived there ever since. It's been like 5-6 years now. And they've lived in a couple of different places. And they finally decided that they just can't take it any longer. They're moving out. They've had it. They live in what would be described as the nicer part of the downtown area in the cultural district, right on Penn Avenue. But even there, even though it does have that vibrancy, you still deal with a lot of these same issues. One of the things that the husband was saying is that every time he gets out of his car, or he gets out of his parking garage area, is that he has to be very cognitive of the idea that he may end up hitting a homeless person or a drug user, somebody who just passed out in the middle of the driveway as the gate is going up and the garage door is going up for him to be able to get out of his building. The issue of crime, and not just, panhandling and some aggressive speech. We're talking about the real crime issues that people are genuinely concerned about, where their safety is in jeopardy. And he's decided, along with his wife, that after about a 5 to 7 year experiment, I think it's been, to move out of downtown and move out of the city completely and go someplace else. These are people who are fairly well-to-do. They have the disposable income. They can clearly afford to live there. They had entertained the idea of considering purchasing before and decided, nope, we're just done. It's not going to change. It's not going to change anytime soon. And there isn't a confidence in this administration and Mayor Ed Gainey that he is going to do what he needs to do in order to clean this place up. And if that's going to happen, and that's the mindset, then who are you going to get to move in? So as I look at this story, they mention a gentleman named Dan Damski. He's a senior managing director with Jones Lang LaSalle. And he said that without a doubt, there will be defaults in the years ahead. And the idea is that there are many office buildings that are older that just don't have the amenities that are going to attract businesses to want to be inside those buildings. And he believes that there'll never be proper office buildings again. And as a result of that, they're not going to have the tenants that they need as office buildings, and they run the very real risk of default. He says there are buildings with debt coming due, buildings worth significantly less than what's owed. So you couldn't even sell them off and let somebody else get them. You owe too much because of the diminished value on these properties, which then brings up another issue. As you have so many of these buildings that have diminished value, you are then going to have fewer tax dollars that are going to be generated as a result for the city, which is going to have a detrimental effect on the entire city. And then even if you live outside the city, it's going to have a ripple effect to communities and municipalities that are closest to the city first and then moving outward. And then there's some concern this could have a detrimental impact on the entire region as a result. So many of these buildings, they're going to have to face the idea of, well, we have to convert to residential. Some suggesting that, okay, we'll go residential, maybe we'll modify a little bit, maybe some hotel space as well. The first floor will gear toward retail and dining, that kind of thing. And so you make it a multi-use building, but then there's a problem. People aren't wanting to live downtown. So even if you were to convert them, how do you get people to live downtown? How do you get people to say, I want to live there, even if you do have the apartments and the condos? Some people suggest, well, the thing is we got to figure out a way of being able to get retail establishments there. In fact, there's one gentleman that was interviewed in this piece. His name is John Valentine. He's executive director of the Neighbors Alliance, and he stressed that it doesn't stop at just converting from offices to something else. He said he believes officials must focus on attracting a better variety of retail, from bakeries and wine bars to climbing walls. One of the things that he would love to be able to see is a Starbucks Reserve that would open up, especially on Liberty Avenue, to give a boost to that street, considering Penn Avenue is doing so well, and then just a block away on Liberty, it just, well, not. He also likes this place called Shinola, a Detroit lifestyle brand that sells a variety of goods, including watches, bicycles, leather accessories, and journals. And the question becomes, is there a political will to get this done? And that's a very good question, too. Is there this political will? It doesn't make a difference in my mind whether it's office space or residential space. The mayor wants to come up with millions and millions of more dollars to build affordable housing, and thinking, well, if we build affordable housing, then people will come to the affordable housing. Not if they don't feel safe, they won't. Not if they're concerned about loitering, if they're concerned about aggressive panhandling, if they're concerned about urination and defecation in the streets, if they're concerned about open drug deals that take place, open prostitution. No, they will not. And I'm hoping that Mr. Valentine doesn't think that the political will in order to attract these businesses to come is some aspect of taxpayer dollars to make that happen. Because one of the other suggestions in this piece was, well, maybe if we make it so that businesses that come and open up, that we give them some kind of a deal for a period of time, where they open up at first and then you give them some rent rebates or discounts on rent, and see if they are actually viable and can succeed. Well, if you're going to ask the property owners to do that, and make that available without any other cash incentive from the city or the state, more power to you. Make the suggestion that this could be a good idea for property owners to give these businesses a chance at reduced or no rent for a period of time. But if you're asking the taxpayers to do this, that's a fool's errand, because if the business owners won't do it, they believe it's not going to be a long-term payoff. Follow the recommendation of what business owners are saying, property owners, and then don't do it yourself because it's not going to be a long-term payoff. One of the things that's been happening in cities that are dealing with crises, much like ours, is they're losing their downtown retailers. Now, granted, San Francisco is a huge downtown. San Francisco's level of prosperity just so much different than ours when it comes to the region as a whole and the downtown specifically. But they are dealing with such homelessness and such lawlessness that major retailers like Nordstrom are pulling out. The kind of retailers that Mr. Valentine thinks you need to have in order to get the residents to want to live there, these businesses are leaving. Why? Because they don't feel safe. Think about what we've been dealing with in downtown Pittsburgh with Wiener World, right? Dentist that has decided to close up shop and move his office someplace else. It's not safe. It's not safe. They're not leaving because they're not getting the right tax incentives to stay. They're leaving because it's not safe for their employees and it's not safe for their customers. So I would argue that with all the discussion that's going on about political will and what can be done and whether or not you convert to residential or mixed use with hotels and all of the like, the mayor's office has to decide who they want in downtown. Who do you want? Do you want the drug dealers downtown or do you want employees downtown? Who do you want? You want prostitutes downtown or do you want people living downtown in apartments and condominiums? Who do you want? Do you want homeless people downtown? Or do you want people who will call downtown home? You cannot have both. It's not going to happen. It's just not. So make the decision. And as Mr. Valentine says, determine what your political will ultimately is. In fact, here's the quote that he gives. I believe that if we have the political will to get this done, we have a lot to offer that other cities don't. I'm not quite sure what that is, but the political will is not more tax dollars. The political will is for this administration to decide, are you going to be with the lawless or the law-abiding? Are you going to be with the peaceful or the people who are breaking the peace? It's that simple. It's no more complicated than that because none of this is going to make a difference. To me, it's so frustrating because it can't be that difficult of a concept. It isn't as though you can't see right in front of you what the core issue is. I'll tell you what the core issue is for why my wife dreads going downtown 3 days a week. And she works at PPG Place. And it's not that PPG Place isn't a nice building. It's a beautiful building, absolutely gorgeous. The office that she works in, beautiful. You couldn't ask for more comforts and more amenities inside the office and all of that. The issue, though, is she dreads, especially during the school year, when there are more young people going to school, whether it's at the college or mostly it's the charter school that's nearby, is the open drug use by teenagers. I mean, they're just smoking weed. And how do I know that? Well, because she walks by a group of kids that look like they're high school kids coming out of the charter school that she has to walk by. They're smoking. She can smell the weed. They don't care about any of the traffic laws. The people who are there that are monitoring them are there only to ensure one of them doesn't decide to beat up and or kill the other one. And as long as they're not doing that, they don't care about the rest of what they do. And they're getting their cue from the police department because the police department is generally dealing with all of the issues downtown exactly the same way. If you're not directly violating somebody else or a clear threat to violate somebody else, they let it go. And so she just dreads it. And then she has to walk around the puddles of urine She has to walk around the people who were homeless there, doesn't feel safe just walking from the bus stop to the office and then back again at the end of the day. And it is a constant refrain. If it felt safe to be there, people would go. Look, one of the greatest proponents of what's happening downtown Pittsburgh is the downtown partnership. How about these people don't even believe in downtown enough to be in downtown every day? They work a hybrid. So the people who are the biggest advocates of downtown aren't even downtown every day. They're not downtown every day supporting the businesses. They're not downtown every day paying to park their car. They're not downtown every day in the office space that they have. I'm not quite sure how they can convince people to come downtown, and they're not even downtown, but that's what they're doing. You don't want to take my word for it? Don't. Call them. Call them. It's on the voicemail. And oh, by the way, good luck if you get to talk to somebody. I don't know how the Post-Gazette and how long they sat on this story before they ultimately got a hold of somebody at the Downtown Partnership in order to get them to be a part of that piece. Because I've sent out, I don't know how many phone calls, left messages in different people's voicemail boxes, emails. It's not as though they don't know who I am. I've been on the air for 13 years in this city. They know nothing. Who knows? Maybe, you know what, Mangino, it's July. Maybe the entire place is just on vacation. That's it. Maybe that's what it is. All right, maybe it is. But I do know they're not there. They're not there every day. Who knows? Maybe they're the downtown Pittsburgh, the Pittsburgh Downtown Partnership, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And then, I don't know, Thursday and Tuesday and Thursday, they're the Downtown Partnership for some other city because they don't have to be downtown Pittsburgh all the time anymore. I don't know. But you're not going to convince people that, you know what, you should be downtown every day, and we're not downtown every day. You talk about mixed messages. You got mixed messages from the mayor's office. Hey, everybody, come on downtown. Hey, please come on back. Come back to work, even though it's not safe, and we want you to navigate and be afraid as you navigate going from the bus stop to work or from the garage to work. We understand that every once in a while you're going to hear gunshots. Okay, we get that. Ignore those if you don't mind. By the way, during your time at work, when you go on your lunch break, stay in. Don't stay in your office, please. Visit the businesses and have a bite to eat. You kidding me? Martina has no interest in going back out after she's in there to have to navigate the gauntlet one more time to get to where you want to go for lunch and then to navigate it back again. Twice is enough. She doesn't want to do it 2 more times. So if you want the city back, then you have to have enforcement. You have to have a peaceful place for people to be. You have to have people feel safe. You can't allow open drug use. You can't allow people to feel as though their lives are potentially in jeopardy. You cannot let homeless people take over the downtown. You cannot have it happen. And you cannot continue to have all this lewd behavior. It just isn't that complicated. Don't throw any more money at it unless the money you're throwing at attracting people to downtown is to make the place better. I don't know how else to drive that point home. I just don't. And until they're willing to do that, I feel bad for all of these property owners, all the businesses that are there, all the people who own buildings, that their value of their building is now less than what they owe on it. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. Now, Damski says that this is a problem with a solution. He says the threat of potential defaults not only is a concern for owners and tenants, but the region as a whole. And he says this in a quote, "It's a problem with the solution. We need more people downtown. We have buildings that are no longer conducive to what today's corporate tenant wants, and they never will be again. However, they can be perfect for residential buildings. There's a solution. There's a way of getting people back to downtown. The mayor and his administration and city council have to ask themselves, do you have the political will to do what it takes to get people to want to come downtown once again?" Thank you very much for listening to the Mangino Talks podcast. Please be sure to click the subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. For more on me and the show, be sure to visit manginotalks.com. If there's a topic that you would like me to talk about or a guest that you would like me to have on, please send me an email, Mangino Talks. Follow me on your favorite social media platform by using @Mangino Talks. And then once you find me, please like, follow, subscribe, and share the pages with your friends and family. And thanks again for listening to the Mangino Talks podcast.
Can't believe it's true. I'm so scared.